Hello guys, welcome to Trading Parrot. Today is Inauguration Day in the US and I'm gonna use this video as a preparation room for the event in UK time that is at 5 p.m. and as soon as I finish publishing this video, I'm gonna schedule a live stream to cover it live. In today's video, we are going to cover a summary of what happened yesterday with the shake off. We suddenly went below 100k, which is great because now we have a channel that we can trade. I'll share all the details for that. Hopefully you managed to watch the video before the event, and if things play out just like the alpha I share on my Sunday video and the alpha I share about Sui, Solana and Ethereum in my Trump coin video on Coin Bureau Trading, that should give you an idea of how good it could go with the alpha today. Spoiler alert, pretty much all the calls yesterday went well, which I'm very happy. Guys, if you like this type of content, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell to get notified every time I put out one of these videos. If you haven't noticed, I'm not just publishing the main video that typically lasts for half an hour, which is packed with alpha. Not just that, but also I've been doing these shorts as soon as I wake up and before I go to sleep to make sure that you're not missing any detail on the price action of Bitcoin. In the last few days, there's been loads of alpha coming in from here, particularly because it's been quite a few volatile days, lots of fun. Let's get into the contents. Some things that are now becoming exciting is the potential comeback from retail. You can see in here that after putting a flag in the number of searches for Bitcoin on Google Trends, we seem to have a breakout of interest now, giving us 41 for this week. This is a moving candle, so it needs to settle. It could go higher or lower. We'll see. Very promising. If this is it, it seems to be pretty late to the party compared to what happened in the previous cycle. We had that mid-December. We are 10 days away from finishing January, so crossing fingers that this is it. Very quick update on the open interest. I'm not gonna go in detail why I care about this. There are long explanations in all the previous videos. Go and watch them if you're new to the channel. This is an awesome alpha and at the moment is progressing because it's once again breaking out about 32.1 billion. Not yet what I want to see, which is the open interest taking the lead against the price. We are seeing the opposite, price taking the lead, so I still cannot use this alpha. January month is almost 16% up, and on the weekly time frame we have done plenty of progress with this candle close. As I said yesterday, my wish was to close the weekly candle at the top of the range. We have the bottom of the range from 93 more or less to 98, and that the top of the range is up until 104.6, and we close at 101k. Starting this week, we are producing the breakout that we need. My wish for this week is to close the weekly candle above the previous all-time high. We already produced an all-time high, but now we are slightly below it at 107.9. I think we have a good chance to break the highs. Be prepared for a lot of volatility. There is a lot of open interest in the market. Yesterday, 1 billion, over a billion, got wiped out and 72% were longs. Shorts didn't do too bad either. They got liquidated too on the way up. More on that in just a second. We're gonna cover that fully in depth later in the video. Let's look at the past performance. You can tell that in this cycle we are breaking from this shape a lot earlier. We're at 20th January. We did that in February, but the pattern of the ABC so far seems to be doing the same effect just a little bit earlier. What's new? Well, we took the high. We took 108 all-time high. That is something that only happened in the second week of February 4 years ago. But also when we did it, we went 4k beyond that high. So instead of getting just to 108 and then hanging out there, this cycle we closed the daily 4k beyond, and then we continue going higher. We came back down to 45 to retest. So all of that, I mention it to keep it in mind. Remember, at these times in the cycle 4 years ago, Bitcoin was way behind the performance that it has already produced this cycle. No matter how much people tell you that we are in the same place in the cycle in terms of performance, that is absolutely not true. And what more objective than looking at the MACD numbers? In 2020, 2021, MACD was around the hundreds, producing the bull cross at around 700 and eventually rallying into 5,000. So that gives you an idea. This peak in here in January in 2021 made it to 4,000, whereas in here we already made it to 6.5k. which is way beyond the max MACD that we ever got in 2021. The maximum was actually 5K, and then in the second top, 4K. I'm not gonna use these numbers to forecast anything, but just to have some sort of confirmation that we have done a lot of performance already, and to push back on all those people that say that we are still very early, because I think we are not. Let's go to the 4-hour, which has played out since yesterday. Mwah! I love it. I've been smiling all Sunday by looking at the price action, because even though all the volatility and all the bananas that came into the setup to potentially destroy all the technicals, these technicals have played out almost by the book. Yesterday we were on the lookout for two things: to reach a top of the range and form a channel to the downside. We speculate at that time that we should be now on the lookout for a downwards channel, and that was very early, because at that point the RSI was somewhere in here at support, and it could have gone all the way to the top of the range, hitting 80s again. But since we already hit 80 and we shift the PNR level from 76 to a new high of 79, I was prepared to say the same that happened in here, which is we should be looking for a channel to the downside. And I have to admit that once we broke above the resistance in here at night, I published an update saying that we could be potentially breaking out to the upside. We need to wait for candle close. The candle closed at 106, which was the perfect bull trap in my opinion. Right after that, market maker decided that they had trapped enough longs to squash them all, and they crashed the price 6% to the downside in just a few minutes. Thanks to that, we touched the top of the band in here at 71, and then we collapsed precisely to the target. I left the target at 45 and I left the line right here, and you can see that we pinched that. We came to the scene of the crime, we touched support at 99.5, and then we went all the way up to the bullish target, which was between 108 and 110 at the time I was shooting the video, so more or less between that. So we hit target 1 to the downside, which I was telling you, careful in this area, we might go down before we go up. We did that, and then we went to the target to the upside. So after I saw the price action, with the exception of this trap in here, which I was saying, wait a minute, we might go up from here, this is really weird, we're doing something that we only do 0.0001% of the time. But I told you, if we get a candle close, we might enter banana zone. That can happen prior to the inauguration event, but we ended up doing precisely what I say in the main video anyways. So I don't know, but I shouldn't be contradicting myself and just stick with what's more likely, even if it looks like it's about to do the opposite. You can tell that we have recovered the previous range. We are right back at here, but it seems that we have identified a pretty fair channel to the downside with 1, 2, and potentially 3 pivots, and then some pivots on the downside. So the way we trade this is by thinking that now we are at resistance and there should be some move down. We're gonna have to adapt now the numbers on the RSI. This is definitely preparation for the event later today, so stick with me. At the moment we have resistance at around 66 and support at 40. So let's move this to 40 and this to 66, and the top of the range we're gonna leave it at 79 because that's what PNR is saying, just for reference. So here we are, we have resistance right where we are having resistance, which is the all-time high, and in order to break the channel down, which I think is low likely, we need to go below 98.2k and basically re-enter the area that we were defending 1, 2, 3 times. Notice as well the beauty of the pattern like this. If you are a technical trader, you understand why I find beauty in such a silly thing, but this is the perfect retest of the scene of the crime. I remind you as well that we talk about this M formation that also play out perfectly well. I don't know why some people continue to think that technicals don't work. I've seen some comments, mostly on CoinViro trading channel, from people that are sounding like newbies, saying stay away from TA. TA doesn't work. You're not gonna be able to TA the Trump coin, and I'll show you later what happened with that too. So on the 4-hour, there is a decent chance that we respect this channel. Be prepared for getting disappointed. Remember that we we are 2 millimeters from banana zone. So be flexible, but still put most of your attention into the setups that have the highest likelihood of playing out. Going into the daily time frame, and this is mind-blowing, 3 times more than what happened with the 4 hour. Yesterday we were focusing on the RSI and we were above this line. Believe it or not, this candle that is pointing down is the candle from yesterday that closed on Sunday, and you can see that it's pointing down. But when I was shooting the video, the candle was still above in here, and I say, interestingly, we are above this resistance that is very strong, that we have respected as support and resistance since August. More than half a year, this white line is the boss, and yesterday we were above it. And what did I say? It's a candle that is still in progress. We might see a rejection and we might come back down and test this line. What did we do? We got a rejection, push back below the white line, and we test the support. So here's the proof, here's the line, and from there we are bouncing now and being once again above it. My speculation was telling me that we are going to do a little bit of playing below that resistance, just because we did a lot of play from above, increasing the chances that the white line is still relevant. What could break this white line? There is a chance that we break the white line, and I think what I'm envisioning here is if we enter banana zone, we are probably going to break the global resistance. Global resistance is this line that touches all the tops, top 1, top 2, and is right there at 68. If we break above 68 on a daily basis and we leave the candle close right there, there is a good chance that we go for the highs. Let's look at the history of the highs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 89, 87, 87, and then we couldn't manage to hit it. It was at 86, but we closed at 84. So I'm compromising and I'm thinking 83 is the maximum the RSI can get there if we saw that breakout on a global basis. Of course, there is a bearish case. If we continue to see rejections in here, we could end up going quite low from there. We have had so far 1, 2 rejections. So if we end up closing below this 67 right there, I'm gonna keep an eye and start thinking, can the price make it above the global resistance, or is it gonna see a rejection? Last time we hit a resistance like that, we have a sellout. This is another resistance, sellout. So hitting that one could do another sellout as well, and that's why I do care whether we close above or below. There's a huge difference between the two. So resistance is 68. So on the daily basis, I'm gonna leave that resistance right there. That is 68, located today at this time at 109.6 is a moving target, and then we get that PNR top level of 83 at 136k. I think it's low likely to get there in just one move. Of course, liquidity ends a little bit earlier, possibly 10k before that. So if we ever get there, it's gonna take a lot of time to build new liquidity and motivation to get there. It's not impossible, but it's tricky. So we are gonna monitor in the live stream later, what do we do with this? How do we close the daily? When it comes to trading range, guys, we have exit the range. We came back below here to the same area. We re-entered the range, but this was a shake-off event and we're back above it. It's very important, guys, very extremely. It's the most important thing right now is that we close above these highs in here, above 104.5, and it's pretty much ugly as F if we come back below the range, which is now at 103. That's the top of this range. Is constantly moving, calculating the volume. Point of control is 96.9. So if today candle closed below this and we went somewhere there, that is a top information and ugly as F, as I said. Not saying it's gonna happen, but if by close today you saw something like that, you should at least wonder yourself, what would I do if that happened? On the RSI, if that happened, this candle, instead of pinching the resistance, will close like this, which will make stronger the argument for these levels to become resistance and to potentially continue lower. So of course, so far we are good. We are testing resistance, but I always like to keep one eye in one direction, one eye in the other direction, to better assess my risk and what could be my options if something like that played out. Have a plan. And yes, on CME, things play out pretty well, but it was too quick to react, as many times it happens like that. You can tell that we closed the price at 105, market open at 103.5, leaving there a gap that was during the sell-off that reached 99.6, and from those lows, clever clever people that were aware of the CME and other alpha took along and closed the gap. So there is no longer any gap in the closest proximity of the price that we can trade. On the monthly basis, we are seeing something really interesting. You can see that this is, I think, is a shooting star or whatever you want to call it. It's a bearish candle on the monthly basis. And what I said is that if in the month of January we manage to close above these highs, then there is no way that the bears can say anything when it comes to a potential bearish target of this, which typically can be very big. And at the moment, the price is sitting right below the highs of December. We have already taken the highs with a new all-time high, but ultimately what we want is at the very least a monthly close looking like this. What we don't want is to sell off back here and have two of these candles looking the same, possibly in the red. That makes even stronger an argument for a local top somewhere there. And the whales are pretty confident accumulating in this area. They have crossed the 0.4, which means that they are kind of accelerating in terms of withdrawing BTC from exchanges, which suggests further accumulation from the end. We are again in extreme greed. You know what that means and what you have to do every morning. Long-term holders continue to go just sideways, which suggests to me that they are expecting higher prices to resume their distribution into the bull market rally. And it's been a while that we don't cover the stochastic RSI on the monthly. I'm just gonna very briefly cover it. Cycles have a period of bullishness, which is the bull run, and you can identify it very easily on a monthly basis on the stochastic RSI, because that's pretty much the time where we reach those highs of almost 100. In 2013, we have this high, and then price rally an additional 2000% thanks to this dead cat bounce on the stochastic RSI in the middle of the range. We also have another dead cat bounce in this area in 2020, collapsing into the COVID crash. We print a bull cross in there and we resume the bull run into the top. Later in the same cycle, we have another dead cat bounce, this time very close to being below 20. We do not survive being below 20 in a bull run. So this was the last line in the sand there in the middle of 2021. And thanks to this very small last scream for help of Bitcoin, it gave us nothing but a new all-time high, which leads me to believe that so far dead cat bounces in a topping year, which is 2025, 2021 as examples, or even 2013, can still squeeze a lot of juice out of the lemon and shouldn't be ignored. Instead, they should be seen as opportunities. And a few months ago, when we were in October, we were pointing out that we were quite likely to produce a bull cross, again looking like a dead cat bounce of a stochastic monthly RSI. We confirmed it in November, and it's been pointing up November, December, and now in January. Now that we are at the top of the range once again, contrarian to all these dead cat bounces, as long as January closes like this above levels of 80, we can add to this opportunity something new. We can say that we are in the territory of a recovery like this one, right? Which is a recovery that in the history of Bitcoin has only been seen in May 2020 as a consequence of a black swan event, and then back into the hundreds, even reaching new highs. So to me, this is a little bit of uncharted territory. I don't have a reference for a situation like this, apart from what happens there and what happens in here. And hopefully in January, we are going to close at these highs and remain there, contrarian to what the narrative of the timings that we have spent above RSI 70 is currently suggesting, which is by doing a linear regression of 400, 300, 200, we get 92. And that means that we are due now, according to linear regression, to lose monthly RSIs of 70 starting with February, which is not very far. RSI tops is actually saying the opposite, together with Bollinger Bands width, which are both shouting, I still cannot end the cycle because I haven't even reached anything as significant as in previous cycles. And I'm definitely monitoring this to understand how the technicals are gonna close down in this cycle. So far, it's very far from previous performances, even considering considering diminishing returns. Anyways, if you're still here, we're gonna cover everything else in preparation for the event tonight. I got a little bit excited with that analysis and it was a bit too long. I promised we were gonna talk about liquidations. We already have 72% liquidations, 1 billion in total. And at the moment, I'm seeing that the price is currently showing some volatility to the downside. Looking at the short-term liquidity, I don't see any motivation to continue higher. There's nothing red at the top. And it seems that on the longer term, after we took 108 to 110 with this wick right there, price has decided to now take on some longs. My low-hanging fruit is this area in red there. So assuming that the event is perceived as something positive, and also assuming that this is not the beginning of a sell the news situation, I think it's quite likely that we take this area ending at 118k. There's still a lot of additional upside spanning all the way to 128, but I would like to keep one thing in mind at the time and just focus on how we can get into this before starting to scream, yes, we can get into 128 so easily, because I don't think it's that easy. Starting with the amount of liquidations below the price, which I suspect with this move down to 105, we have taken some of it. But this morning, I noticed that when we were at 106 last night before going to sleep, we were almost with a delta again of 1 million. And we took some of it to the downside to 108. So pretty much we clear out 90% of those excessive longs. But these longs are very sticky at the moment and they're not giving up with their leverage trading, and they're back to the same levels in even higher than before, which is highlighting the levels of risk and the excessive levels of volatility that we should be seeing in the rest of the day. Notice that when we sold from 106 back into 99s, the longs stepping aggressively with limit orders to buy that dip at these prices below 100k. And thanks to that, we have made the move up into 108. As we've been talking for a while, 110 is very heavy and the liquidity remained there with 106 billion, 106 million becoming quite a tough resistance there. I ignore if they're gonna continue pushing and trying to break that wall or if they're gonna pull out last minute, but definitely the star of the show today is this selling wall at 110k. Delta has so far respect the channel that we have speculated is going to help us finding alpha, and as you can see in here, I was saying we should be selling like this and then coming back into the top. That was one out of the two hypotheses. The second and the third were to find support in here or there to give us a great buying opportunity. So far what we are doing is coming back halfway towards any of those targets that become really juicy for a buyout, and we're going back into resistance again. These areas in my alpha are typically areas to kind of stay away with elevated risk to enter in a long. I consider them great areas to consider profit taking. Notice that the levels of liquidations from longs last night match by the dollar all these liquidations that we've been having for a long time, multiple occasions, and I even left the line in grid in color green to track them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that we reach almost the same amount of liquidations. Why would you care how many people get liquidated? Well, if you get the mindset of alpha, once you see this amount of liquidations live on Trading Light, which can also be represented by these bubbles, you can see the magnitude of the bubble and think, well, typically that's all we get most of the time and could represent a great buying opportunity, wouldn't it? Liquidation levels of the past 30 days, again, on the lower end, there is plenty to choose from. On the higher end, of course, we are entering price exploration. We're not going to find a lot, with the exception of the recent highs, in this case 109.5. Fair value gaps yesterday worked out phenomenal as an alpha. We were talking about coming back down and taking the fair value gap, didn't we? And that's precisely what we did. We pinched the fair value gap slightly below it. No more business to do around this area. Do we have energy to go lower? Nope. Okay, back up we go. We left a fair value gap there in green that was taken in just minutes back up, and now we have one of the thickest levels today, from 102.2 to 105.5. So over 3,000 fair value gap, which is pretty thick and very easy to get taken as well. Watch out for that that potential? Well, apparently today the markets are closed, at least that's what everybody told me in the comments of the video yesterday. So I guess we're not gonna see them influencing the price in any way during inauguration. Bitcoin dominance is potentially putting a new high. Now it's at 59. We already made it to almost 60 mid-December. So this is making look the dominance bullish at the moment. Of course, we just started this weekly candle. Yesterday we closed at 58.66. On the weekly basis, this candle yesterday, before we closed on Sunday, we were above the resistance, above the yellow line. And as you can see, we ended up closing below resistance. And that is evident while looking at the corresponding price of that resistance, which we say was 103.9. You can tell that the price at some point during the week on Sunday managed to get to 106, but got rejected from that resistance. So I cannot say at the moment that this has broken out above and claimed the yellow line, because we are just on Monday. It's a new candle and there's plenty of time for this to move up all the way to even 120 and still close below this green line, which is now at 105.474. Neither we can claim that we have put a bullish cross on the stochastic RSI, because we close with the K at 48.97, D at 50.62, and only thanks to the new candle this week, which is still moving, we have a cross, meaning that the price action this week will have to decide whether we get or not a bullish cross on the stochastic RSI. And same goes with this might see a rejection and close next Sunday still below the yellow line, in which case we can claim that we are still respecting this important line. What we need next Sunday is a bull crossing here and to close this RSI above the yellow, and then we can start talking about hitting resistance at higher prices and getting into 120k. And I know that the video is already very long, but I'm going to use the remaining part of the video to review the setups that I cover on Sunday. How are they doing? Starting with the Trump setup, which we had a setup. The timing of me shooting the video was a coincidence. I have to say it was a coincidence, but what a crazy coincidence. I was shooting the video and the RSI on the 15 minutes was right there at support. You can watch the video, I'm not lying. Price was at $75, which is pretty much the highest closing price for the Trump coin. And at that point, I say we need to be on the lookout for potentially breaking down from this trend line. And if we do that, we should be seeing downside, a decent downside, because this coin is just a meme coin. And from the time we shoot the video, that went down 51%. It came back to the same level, but it got rejected once again. And it bottomed at an RSI of 26, being from 70, which is just crazy volatility. And after bottoming at $36, it has come back to hit 63 as resistance. And this setup play out in both directions, in the direction of breaking down. And also I told you that once we break down, be very careful with taking a short. This is a crazy horse, and you can tell that if you took the short at $75, this will have moved down, come back to the same price of break even, and then collapse even further, and then coming back here. In other words, if you took the short late and with too much leverage, this move up will have liquidate you and not allow you to take profits big in there. I talk about buying the dip if we saw that breakdown. If you did, this has moved up almost 70% from the lows. At the time I was shooting the video on SUI rotating into Solana, and we also talk about Solana versus Ethereum being above this megaphone with the RSI hitting resistance at 73. And I say Solana is rallying too much. This green candle has never been seen in the whole history of Solana. Therefore, it's a great opportunity, or potential great opportunity, to flip some of that Solana into Ethereum. At the time we were shooting, this was at 0.09, and it has made a move down of 14%, giving you additional value to have rotated from those highs into Ethereum. It's not a long-term move, but being at the top of this megaphone pattern against resistance on the weekly basis was as good as an entry as seeing SUI touching resistance there at 16 and then bouncing off all the way to 18. So that is a 21% that SUI has outperformed Solana from the moment we were shooting the video at these lows until it has reached the maximum potential so far. On the altcoins, if we look at others against BTC, you can see that the break breakout that we had in November has continuing to come down for a retest at RSI 42. In my opinion, liquidity is still not coming into the macroeconomy, and coins are still in this state of bouncing the ball from one coin to the other when it comes to liquidity, which is definitely not what we expect for an altcoin season. Reduced liquidity and too many coins dilute whatever profits are made and causes any upside to be just a short-term one. I still think that there is an opportunity in here because we are testing support. I will say getting close to this trend line in there, it's a second opportunity getting into 297 when you're doing the ratio of others versus BTC. That should be another great opportunity. If we get there at 297, as I said, potentially the RSI might come back into the previous range, in which case it could hit the lows once again in here. But in my opinion, that is another opportunity. I think eventually the liquidity is gonna come in, and at some point in 2025 we should be talking about these targets in here. Guys, if you want to trade altcoins, Bitcoin in a top-notch exchange, I got two options, Bybit and OKX. Either of them are offering incredible bonuses. On Bybit $30,000 and OKX $60,000. The links can be found in the description, and by using them you also can get discounts in referral in trading fees. If you want to stay away from needing to do KYC, not to have to use a VPN to access the exchange, not having issues with withdrawals, deposits of crypto, and being able to open as many accounts as you want with different emails, then I got two options, Bluffin followed by 2bit. These two exchanges are offering great bonuses as well, including a Rolex, Apple Vision Pro, MacBook Pro, iPhones, and even a Nintendo Switch. On 2bit, the bonuses are also based on trading volume and are pretty significant, up to 30,000 in bonuses. Give them a try, all the links are in the description, definitely helps the channel, and I'll see you in the live stream later today during the inauguration. By the way, I'm not gonna watch the inauguration, we're just gonna do live TA, so you can bring any of the coins that you want to review, do live TA on all of them, and have some fun. Take care, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.